Welcome to RCAM. My name is Ryan, and thank you for tuning in today. And today on our show, we have Ash Canzie. Am I saying that right?
Yes, you are.
Awesome. Welcome to the show, Ash. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. We probably don't have as nice of weather as you do out in Florida. I hear birds chirping. That's not the case here in New York. It is cold and freezing.
Is it snowing up there?
Not today, but we have gotten an inordinate amount of snow here. It has been probably one of the worst winters we've had in a long time. We probably have
Mm.
still 2 feet of snow out there, so yeah, it's not
Oh,
fun
that's
shoveling.
so I'm glad I'm here. I mean, it's chilly today. I didn't check the weather, but jacket weather, but it'll be hot in about an hour, ready for
That's
swimming.
that's awesome. And you live in a free state, which is pretty cool. So we are
Yes.
not super free here right now in New York. So
Yeah,
that's not fun. So
understandably so.
what are the COVID restrictions like by you guys?
It's pretty open, honestly. I mean, most of our businesses still have the mask signs that they require you to wear them. Employees in restaurants and retail, they all still have to wear a mask while they're at work. But guests, customers, they are not required to enter anywhere. Now, there were locations, I believe it was St. Pete, where there was a stronger mask mandate in places like Tampa. But for the most part, I don't even believe that there is a mask mandate anymore per se.
Wow, that's kind of awesome. Not gonna lie, little jealous.
Well, I mean, we still went through that period. I mean, I was actually working in a restaurant last year,
Wow.
and it was season. And for instance, like Christmas time is typically you can leave the restaurant with at least $100 in tips just working an evening shift, and I was leaving there with less than $20, if that. And that was at a 50% capacity, and even with the mask mandate lifted for customers, there was still so little business. I mean, people were losing hours, a lot of people had changed jobs. I actually changed a job, which I'm hoping mine's more of a COVID friendly position at this point.
Yeah, yeah. We've kind of had that here too. I think even when all the restrictions fully lift, there's going to be a large number of people that are just very scared to go out. And I don't blame them. I mean, like we've had this. I mean, we've been living on lockdown for a year, so it's very
Right.
reasonable. But yeah. So I wanna just switch gears for a little bit. So you are a musician, and
Yes.
your band is called M99, and I think that is
Yes.
awesome. So I guess tell me a little bit about your band. How did you get into music?
I've been a sucker for music probably my whole life. I used to put concerts on in my room when I was a kid through high school. It's kind of what you do. Got into karaoke, never really thought about actually doing anything with it. I did start to get inspired though when I was a teenager. Our town here used to have a lot of local shows, and a lot of local bands would play at different venues. Even some of our churches, places like arcade places like Easy Street, they would host these bands, and some of those bands actually went off, got signed, and are popular, and a lot of people know them now. But it wasn't until after I had my son that I actually joined this band. I had friends in this band. It was already a band, I think, for about a year and a half, and their singer decided to leave and, move. And they asked me, and I did an audition I didn't know about. And they kind of filmed it and sent it without me knowing. I thought we were just kind of karaoke jamming out, and he filmed me doing one of their songs, and they asked me to audition with the band. I did, and from there, it's just been this epic journey. And a lot of work. It's not as easy and rock star fun life like they try to say. There is a lot of work you have to put in for networking, promotions, and being careful what you say about things, you know.
Yeah, I can imagine a pretty sensitive culture we live in right now. But
hmm
that's awesome. I've enjoyed going to concerts. I've gone to a number of concerts, so it's kind of cool to be talking to somebody that's actually leading those concerts. Um, so what genre of music are you guys doing?
It's like we call it rock metal, rock music. It's not pop. It is rock. There are heavy guitars in there and guitar leads, and it's pretty good. Um, so we did have a change. There was a time where we had a little more growl in our music, but we've transitioned since then. It's actually gotten a better response. Um, like a hailstorm. Are you familiar with that musician?
I am not. My wife would probably be. My wife's
Probably.
more into music like that.
Yeah, it's good. It's different, and it definitely brings in more of a diversity of a rock crowd, I suppose.
That's awesome. So so I know you're somebody of you're a believer, which is awesome. I love connecting with other believers. So does your faith play a role at all in your music?
Actually, yeah. That's something that we're all kind of strong in. We all believe in God. Most of this band goes to church. Most of us went through our own trials, which brought us closer in our faith. And with our music, there's always some kind of message that we're trying to send. I mean, we have our fun messages, but a few of our songs channel into more of that spirituality. Um, we wrote a song, for instance, called "Release Me" that is dedicated to a friend who actually committed suicide. And in that song, we tried to spread the message that you're not alone. You can overcome all that kind of stuff. We wrote a song about domestic violence, so it's just bringing. I don't know. I feel I'm a good Christian. I try to be. And I try to make sure that whatever message I'm putting out when I'm singing is, still connected. It's healthy messages. We haven't really put any religious text into our songs, but we're a newer band and we still have a journey to go. And I kind of feel that's always the direction that we're heading is somehow, you know,
Yeah, I think that's actually a kind of a good thing too, especially because like some of the stuff that you were mentioning that you're saying about suicide, domestic violence, those are issues. I mean I mean are probably increasing right now, especially with everything happening to lock in during the lockdown. So someone could tune into that music, and just draw like a sense of hope from it, or know that they're not
yes,
alone. I think that is really, really profoundly powerful. And I also think, it's something to say like, so there are bands that, they're explicitly like Christian bands. And I feel like
right.
sometimes that just loses you a whole audience,
It,
instead of
it
just
can.
being a band that has some themes that, everyday people struggle with. And I think some people, might resonate a little bit more with that, and you reach people that you might not miss if it's exclusively, Christian music or something like
Correct.
that. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I feel the same way about a lot of like Christian films. Sometimes I find myself, even though I'm a believer, not being able to really connect with them because I just feel like sometimes like they come off as like a little fake or a little just inauthentic, where I
Yes.
feel like there's a need for just more authentic, movies and music that
Genuine.
yes, yeah, not and also not like, maybe, probably some Christians would disagree, but I mean like raw. I mean real life is not PG-13 sometimes. Real life,
No.
has its highs and its lows, and we all go through, different battles and situations that I really think, I mean, we could, show those stories and tell those stories and still engage a large audience.
Agree. I agree. It's when you're picking your audience, you want to try and pick everybody. So like I said, you got to be careful with certain things that you say, but that doesn't mean you still can't find a way to spread that message, without, I guess the word would be overbearing.
Yeah.
People run away and get uncomfortable with things that they don't know, that they're unfamiliar with, and the way that I think depiction has a lot to do with it too. So we try to stay as neutral as we can. I mean, we're very open when people ask us questions about our faith or, whatever, but we also don't, we won't sit there and, in a sense, like overdo it with trying to get people on our same level. I believe people get there on their own through their own trials,
Yeah. And I think a
mean,
lot of that too can be done through like individual relationships. So, like one thing I've noticed about having some difficult conversations, because like we have such a horrible political climate right now, is instead of debating the person on Facebook or YouTube comment section, to actually have
right.
a conversation with them. It's a little bit more powerful, and I think there's a lot of ideas that are talked about that are just filled with nuance, and you just can't articulate that sometimes just in a comment section. It takes a conversation kind of like this, or face to face, to actually kind of work through some of these issues. And I know, like me personally, there was at least one time off the top of my head where I'm talking about a challenging subject with a person. Instead of doing it over through social media, I'm like, let me call them and talk to them. And I was able to salvage that friendship, which was awesome. Which I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to change my approach a little bit. I don't want to push people away. I want people to, I want to draw people closer and try to come to like an understanding. So I guess my next question is, how have you noticed, if answer as comfortable as you feel possible, how have you noticed politics like influencing the music industry?
Well, for starters, the shut down anything musical, every show, every concert. So obviously that had a great effect, through school. Obviously I've been doing projects, and, I do research through, I was doing research into record labels and, the best way for them to make revenue and for artists to get out there. And, it used to be about going to the shows. And with us, that's how we get our exposure. That's how we get new fans. And at the same time, we know it helps people. It's kind of like we took on this role. It's kind of our duty to deliver to our fans. And when we can't deliver, obviously you see a big drop in morale. And I think honestly, cutting out all those shows had a really dramatic effect on our community and communities everywhere, because that's kind of like an outlet. That's where you go to feel the same thing that everybody else feels, because artists and stuff, they're always considered oddballs, different, loner, typically, because people don't understand where their path has taken them, because being a musician, it's not typically looked upon as a real career, because they make it seem like it's such a like a Hollywood lifestyle, but it took away a lot of I think it really affected the community just as much as it affected the music industry, because it's kind of like it's a balance of both that is needed. But the positives of all this, though, is a lot of musicians were actually able to sit down and work and come up with new material and create new bands and fix their old bands and do videos. Like, there was a lot of that going on, so the perseverance is inspiring, because you watch it with your local bands, you watch it with even the famous bands. They're doing literally the same exact thing that our band's doing.
Yeah. So you get to like fine tune your craft in preparation for, when everything starts to open up. And I definitely hear what you're saying, because people, they lost a sense of community, there is a community in these people that go to these concerts, or go to the movie theaters, or go, there's just this sense of community that you're all participating in the same thing. You're all part of it. And to lose that, I can only imagine how challenging it is. I'm going to the movies today, and I'm pretty excited about that.
Oh, that's exciting!
Been to the movies in a year. They finally opened it up. I'm like, finally, I can actually go to a movie theater. Sure, I can watch on Netflix or a streaming service, but I don't know. There's just something about being there that's
it's the
different.
atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just like I love going out to eat. It's fun. I like going to the restaurant, dressing up, sit down, eat, and then overpay, over tip, and you're on your way. But it's fun. It's something to do. And I think people really miss having something different to do. And the shutdown is just, it affects so much more than just public health and safety. Like, it's affecting a lot of things differently, as we talked about the suicide and all that kind of stuff going up. Again, for a paper that I did, I had to look into that kind of information. And since 2019 through now, minors, and we're not just talking teenagers, I mean, even elementary students are getting to a point where they are hurting themselves. They are taking their own lives. They are falling into depression, and it's not their fault, and I think depiction is key here. And I think that, there's too many people who are so scared of this, of what's going on, that they're not really thinking about the consequences in the future. They're thinking about, okay, right now, but our kids are the future. There is no getting around that. They're our youth. They're the ones who are going to be us one day, making the same decisions that we're making now. And what are we teaching them? It's I think, there needs to be better depiction. There needs to be better communication. There needs to be this rivalry that doesn't need to be there. It needs to stop. Because at this point, it kind of seems like, well, where's everyone's backbones? Like, you're just kind of throwing things out here, and you're like, hey, go jump on board for the ride. And we're like, well, wait, hold on. Some of us, can we talk about this? They don't, it's kind of like, it's just too much, but I have faith that people they're eventually gonna become a people again, they're gonna get tired of fighting. Like, I don't even Facebook right now. I can't. it's just too much. I mean, we've been on Threads,
Yes, I know. I know. It's really emotionally taxing sometimes. And sometimes, man, like, if I didn't see, like, if I didn't know that there are, like, people, that maybe not the people I'm arguing with, but other people that just listen to hear the stuff that I say, I would have canceled my Facebook a long time ago. Because it is challenging, and two, no one likes, just saying, me, honestly, a lot of things that I talk about, I think a lot of them are just common sense things, like, I don't think they should be controversial at all, yet they are.
No.
And that's the type of climate that we're living in, like, and that to me is really wild, and you were talking about, our children, I don't think it's controversial to say, hey, we need to talk about how this is affecting the lives of our children. We need to talk about the long-term ramifications of perpetual lockdowns and what it's doing to them. And I'm not saying, like, I have the answers, but we at least need to have the conversation and figure something out, because what we're doing right now is not working for them. They've completely been taken out of their community, the people that they've done life with, and have been, forced, to stay in their homes and not be able to, have these human connections that we need, that I also think are vital for, like our growth as people,
Well,
yeah, go.
I was just going to say that that's exactly right. With children, especially young children, the best part for their development is they need that human contact. They need that interaction. They learn by play. They learn about being stimulated by their environment, and that's including toys and teachers and other children. They need that because it's a part of them growing into, a person, development. And even with teenagers, they need that human contact. And, parents, it's we're not really meant to be our kids' school teachers anymore. We've adapted from that, so parents having to be parents and school teacher, it's stressful, because your teachers go to school and they learn how to, be social with children and education. And, parents are different when it's your kids. You're always different with your kids versus somebody else. So that balance of sanity, and control, gets strained because you didn't go to school to be your kid's teacher, and your child is not going to sit in front of a computer for 6 hours. And, I know we're trying, and I know we're trying, but, there's volunteers. There are people out there who do have an education in education who would be more than willing to get in a classroom. I understand if there's those who don't, and that's fine. So let's work on a system maybe that you just replace them so we can send children back to school, because that is the best. It's like a domino effect, except it's just like this chaotic domino effect of all these things and consequence of this, consequence of that. It's like, well, something's got to give somewhere. I mean, you got to try, you got to do something different, like you said.
I agree. I'm not a huge fan of the public school system, but I don't think the solution is just removing it, because a lot of people do depend on it. A lot of people, that like they haven't built their lives around something else, like they haven't learned to kind of adapt to this lifestyle where they do have to teach their children, because a lot of people have jobs that, they become, to a degree, dependent on the public school system. So part of me is I would like to, maybe find, like, I don't know, a door number 3 where there's like an option for parents to not be completely dependent on the school system because of issues like this that happen, where we're completely unprepared. I know there's like popularity in like homeschooling groups that's growing, that I think that's kind of a cool option, because then it's not just on one parent to teach the kids. We take turns and kind of work with each other and take your kids out to actually go engage. And I think for at least boys, that's probably actually a better learning environment than the classroom setting. I know there's been studies done where it's actually like girls do better in the classroom setting than boys, because boys have all this energy, they need to get it out, they're not getting it out, and then they act up, and then they get slapped with ADHD drugs. And I don't think that's good either. But I definitely hear what you're saying, because we don't have a really solid solution right now, and it's been difficult. My wife, we have our daughter, and in a couple of years we're gonna have to figure out kind of what we're gonna do for schooling for her. And like part of me is like, I would love to send her to public school, but sometimes I'm like nervous because of the way things are and the way things have been, and some of the stuff that's being taught in schools makes me really uncomfortable. So I'm like I don't know. I think we're innovative enough to figure out something that's going to work for everyone.
I got 3 kids. Our oldest is in the homeschooling with other homeschool kids with one teacher. So, it almost gives you like the atmosphere, like we talked about, you just going to a movie theater. It creates the same kind of setting, and that helps, and being around other people.
I think that's great. Yeah, I think that is kind of the options that I think would be good to have, to have that group education where you're having they're still having that type of atmosphere. And I also think it gives I guess the parent a little bit more control in what their child learns. I think that's awesome.
Yes.
So
now I know I was just going to say about what you said earlier about teaching what they're teaching in school. I know that there are certain states like mine where certain things aren't going to be changed and aren't going to be introduced. So I think that too in itself is an issue. It's a complicated topic to kind of get into, but because I think what they're teaching where you live, they're not going to teach where I live. It's just not an option that they're going to consider.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So I guess this is a kind of a good segue. So I think me and you are pretty vocal about some of the things that we believe. I think that's kind of how we got connected through social media. Is I think we
Mhm.
both share like a mutual passion for faith, life, and protecting our children. And
Yes.
kind of the crazy things that are unfolding in our culture. So I guess yeah, I'm pretty outspoken on abortion, and I about 2 years ago, I think the Reproductive Health Care Act was launched, where babies up into the third trimester were able to be aborted, and that was something that just I don't know. It was in that moment where like my heart broke, and that's kind of what galvanized me to even start doing this channel. Really, is that moment. Was like just a pivotal moment for me to be like, I got to stop being quiet about this. It's a little bit more challenging for men, but I need to say something. So,
Right.
what has moved you to be, outspoken about some of these issues?
Literally that bill. I actually posted a video as soon as that passed about it. Um, I was destroyed. I mean, I was crying and everyone was like, "What's wrong?" until they started listening to the video. I had actually posted a video prior to that because I came across a TED Talk video pertaining to pedophilia, and I had some thoughts about that I voiced. But that bill in particular, it was just this feeling of just devastation, and I don't understand it. There are certain aspects of abortion that I can understand. It doesn't mean I agree with it or I'm pro it, but I can understand certain circumstances, health, life of the mother, life of the child, even in cases of rape and incest, those are certain things that, I can understand. But, when you look at statistics, the statistics are just way too high to have no reason. And
Yeah,
it's hard for me to digest that having no reason is a reason.
yeah,
And, when people go on the science aspect of it, well, even science declares that life begins at conception.
yeah,
And we'll defy that rule, fine, and we'll go with, okay, heartbeat, and then you take it to the point up to birth. This isn't Roe versus Wade. And Roe versus Wade was based upon the child already being deceased in the womb and wanting to take it out, or birth it. It's again, that's what that circumstance was based upon, not I don't want the baby, get it out. That's not what that was about. And
yeah.
the woman, bless me, I'm trying to remember what her name is, who came that bill. It wasn't Margaret Sanger, but she was the person who started all this.
Yeah, Planned Parenthood. Yep.
Yeah. But even they turned back and said that they wanted to stop that bill right before they passed away. And then, I don't know how much has gone into that.
Yeah, it's yeah, that it was equally as devastating for me. I mean, I remember getting emotional and thinking, like these are fully formed babies. We're not, there's not even a debate that it's just a clump of cells. Even though I don't believe, there's no debating. This is a
No.
fully formed human being. There's no question about it, and to allow this to happen is just, I don't know. It's like it's
It
just evil.
it hurts us because our faith says no. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, we live in a time where, like, we're a bad person for having our faith. Now, I understand that there have been people, again, who were overbearing and maybe even hostile and ugly about their thoughts on abortion,
Yeah,
you
I agree.
know. But I also feel that I honestly didn't know too many details about abortion up until that bill was passed, and I actually just started doing all kinds of research. I just, because I just like you, I felt like this is something I got to speak out against. This is something that I want to talk about, not so much to control, but to educate these women who are being told one thing but don't know the full extent. That is why, what was that movie called? Planned. I think it
Yeah.
was with
Unplanned.
Abby.
Yeah, with Abby Johnson.
Unplanned.
Yeah.
That's why that was so powerful, because women don't know what is happening to that child. Like, I didn't know all the different ways that they, would perform abortions. And it blew my mind that they would even take it to full term. I'm like, and then you got people saying, oh, well, even after the baby's born, and I'm just, it goes against our faith so hardcore. It's like, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to say, hey, please don't do that? Like, and then they bring it into the conversation. Well, okay, so what happens when the child is born? Orphanages, bad, foster care, bad, foster parents, bad, they don't have enough money for this and that. Well, why don't you take the good chunk of the $1 trillion from Planned Parenthood, and why don't you invest that into making those things better? I mean,
Yeah.
it literally makes more sense to me, and do better background checks on your foster parents, because,
Yeah.
especially now, it's a paycheck.
Yeah.
I believe there are more good people out there than there aren't, and that is the battle that we are fighting. Is it's wrong to be good, and we can't allow that. We have to have a backbone. So,
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
agree. And with the foster care thing, I mean, like the argument is that you're saying, well, they're better off dead because they're born into poverty. Lots of people are born into poverty. They made something of themselves, like they've
mhm.
made a difference. There are lots of people right now living in poverty. Do we kill them because of that? Like, do we end their life and their ability to make something, of themselves, and experience this rich and profoundly beautiful life that we have? I'd say no, no, of course we don't do that. We figure out a way to help them in
Right.
life, by placing them with the right people, and loving them. And like, I think one thing that I think has been missed is, one of my friends challenged me on this, and she said, like, thinking about what we can do to support the women, because a
Hmm.
lot of women, I think the reason that some of these things happen is because women are put into really unfortunate circumstances where they don't really feel like they have a choice. And I feel like in that aspect, the church has failed because they don't feel like they can come to the church first, and they go to Planned Parenthood first,
I agree.
and I think if the church is saying, hey, like we're not, we're not saying this is okay, but we will do everything we can to help you and your baby. If that means putting up an apartment, if that means, doing a registry for you, helping you build the furniture and being there, we will be there and support you
Hmm.
in caring and providing for that child. That's who we are supposed to be. We are supposed to care for the widows, care for the orphans, care for these people. And I would say, like, women that are facing abortion, usually they're single. The men have abandoned them, so that they don't
Hmm.
have anyone. They're the modern equivalent of widows. And I think it's just a missed opportunity, for the church to
Agree.
really make a difference. Also, holding men a little bit accountable, because I think men get a huge pass on this, but no, 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 no. You participate in this. It wasn't just her. You were
It's,
involved.
yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. Again, it's about depiction. When you're charging these confused individuals and saying, these bad things are going to happen to you if you make this decision, it's you got to give them the opportunity to make the choice for themselves, obviously. But at the same time, you got to make them feel comfortable. It's about trust. Give them the information, give them the options of benefits, and not just tell them about it, but maybe help, by leading them. Okay, maybe this is where you start. Have a plan. Come up with better procedures to help the people of our community, because what makes us stronger is helping each other. You know, you don't have to physically give handouts to people. People want to work for what they have. You know, they want that gratification personally and outwardly that they did something. You know what I mean? But you're right. I think a church is a great missed opportunity. And I think that, you know, there again, even within churches, and I know I'm going to go out on a limb here, but very much so as in Congress and things, and same with churches, you know, they need more filtration. They need more change consistently. You know, it's having the same people, you know, life changes every year, every 6 months, every 3 months, life changes. And we can't keep doing things the same way that we used to do things. That's pretty much the whole argument why all these things are just drastically changing right now, because, oh, we can't do things the way we used to. Okay, cool. But let's also do things that's good for everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, because again, you're asking me to go against my religion on a lot of stuff and be respectful and get over it. And I live in America. I'm allowed
Yeah.
to have my own thoughts and feelings. And, you know, this country was not based and founded on a lot of the things that are going down. And it hurts
Yeah.
that the cancel culture hurts a lot. And it
Yeah.
not just one side, it hurts everybody because it's ripping us apart. The closest that our country was together when coronavirus hit was when everybody was watching that tiger show. I promise you.
You know what? You're right about that.
That was the
Everybody,
last time.
God, that's sad. I mean,
Mhm.
I mean, that is sad that we were united over Tiger King. And I
Mhm.
think something like that probably brought people together just to take their minds off of all this craziness.
There were funny memes. There were actually memes again. Everyone hated the memes. Now we miss the memes. And that was the last time we had them. And then things changed. It takes a couple of months, you know?
I'm all for progress, like I am,
Yes.
but progress without compromising morality. You know, like we can have progress without compromising morality, and I think like a lot of the things, like you know, we'll talk about unborn babies. We've had lots of tremendous progress. I mean, we can do surgery on a baby in the earliest stages of pregnancy and save their lives. I mean, that to me is mind blowing progress.
Yes.
But I think we're also using progress as a vehicle to do things that are just awful, and that we shouldn't be doing. And you know, I think that's dangerous, and scary, honestly, in a lot of ways. You know, and we're progressing to a point where I'm like, man, like we're getting to the point where it's going to be difficult to come back. You know, I think one of the things that me and you had a pretty good conversation about was I'd done a video speaking out against something that I thought I would get large scale support and
Yeah.
lots of people agreeing with me that I don't know, pedophilia is wrong. And I was that really opened my eyes to see like, wow, like there are people actually advocating for this and defending it and pointing out semantics. Well, you know, and I'm just like, this is crazy. Like I did not think people would be defending this. And then I had that and then I realized, man, this is a problem. Like this is going to be like I would say our next big frontier is these you know individuals pushing for the normalization of pedophilia. And
Right.
that is horrifying.
It is. It absolutely is. I'm wondering if you were if you had posted that TED Talk video where they were talking about normalizing pedophilia and what was the word that they used, being sympathetic. And it comes down to this, you know, if based on science and psychology, you know, it is, you know, we all know that children are not meant for that. And they try to use the excuse, oh, well, talking to them about it and getting them comfortable with it, so they'll know, what's going on if it happens. It's like, no, you're trying to get them comfortable with it, that it's okay, so you can do that to them. And so it comes off consensual. I'm going to tell you right now, I've been studying child development since last summer. That is my thing. I'm really big with kids and helping. And children, minors, are not cognitive enough to understand or make those kinds of decisions. They're still growing. There's a reason why they say 18, you're an adult. Like, there's a reason why they say 16, 17, you can drive. You know what I'm saying? There's
brain
reasons.
Isn't fully developed until 20,
Yes.
25 or 28. I forget which one it is, but it's not fully developed until then, that late,
Right. And it is called grooming and conditioning, to personal story. When I was a child, I experienced my own trauma in that particular area. And, when it's between, we'll say, teenagers to children, it's a little different because neither really know what they're doing. It's the teenager still knows it's wrong, but it's a different bond, which is why it's easier for younger kids to grab kids and traffic kids, because kids connect with kids. It's just natural. You see someone with a cool jacket when you're in, fourth grade, you run over to them and you guys start talking and you're friends. It is what it is. With adults, it's like a long process. They insert themselves in the child's life and their family's life. They become friends with the parents, and they start in steps. They start in steps, slow, and it's a learned behavior, and that's grooming, that's conditioning. And no, it's unacceptable. That's not what kids are meant for. That is a mental condition, and they need to treat it as such. This where they arrest them when they actually molest a child and then release them 5 to 10 years later. They go around and do it anyway, and it's not okay. And what's happening, I think, in the world, in our country, is they are giving off the impression that that they can get away with these kinds of things based on lack of actions on other bad actions that have happened. To be as neutral as I can here, it's they're basically saying, hey, all you bad people, come out. There's nothing anybody can do about it because it is a cancel culture. I think we push back. We don't have to be violent. We don't have to be aggressive. We just need to literally be smart, because I'm going to say this. EQ does not ever surpass IQ. It doesn't, because feelings are opinion, no matter what. Now, can we be more sensitive and tactful with the way that we want to debate things? Yes. But we're all mad and we're all like over it. And it's the same thing every single day. And when, the Save Our Children network getting shut down, that disgusted me beyond anything. Like, how could you do something like that when they're telling you, they're reporting all of these online, people are getting online. I posted a link, I don't even know how many times, but there was an FBI Facebook link that you could post the URLs of the videos that were circulating around Facebook. All of a sudden, there's all kinds of horrible ones. And people were, they were, what's the word I'm looking for here? They were reporting them, and they were sending the links. I even did it with a couple videos myself. And they're saying that, the alerts online have been helping significantly. You were seeing it. Hundreds of kids were getting saved out of all these different rings constantly, all the time. And it makes a difference. And these same kids find ways to get on social media. And when they see people fighting for them, it gives them hope.
Yeah.
My goal is I want to teach kids to have hope and to learn how to handle any situation, even if at home is not particularly a safe environment, learn how to live there without getting hurt and getting emotionally destroyed. Know who you are, know who you're loved by, and know that there is a community of people out here fighting for you to be okay. Pedophiles should never be released from jail. I'm sorry, especially when they actually commit an act. And
Yeah.
on my research, I mean, 500,000 kids a year on average are abused. And
And,
79% of the time, it's by people that they know, family members and whatnot.
and that's just what we know. That's just what we know about. I know. I was reading a statistic. It was actually a government study that 1 in 10 kids will be the victims of sexual abuse in the public education system, and that's scary. That's millions of children. I mean, that is truly horrific. But I do want to say, I mean, Ash, I think you are doing it, giving people hope just by, just by being able to have these conversations. They'll see it. I see it, and I think it's awesome, and it's encouraging. Part of the reason I wanted to even to come on the show was it was just moving to me to say, like, this woman is outspoken, and she's willing to stand when standing right now is really hard.
It is.
And I think that, that's an awesome thing that you're doing. Uh, so one last thing, kind of pertaining to this subject, and then I think we'll wrap things up. Is so there's this growing movement of putting like young children on like hormone blockers because they're identifying as trans, and I'm not, I'm not gonna say it's like I'm going to be very careful here. Um,
Mm-hmm.
if somebody's 18 years old and they want to identify as trans, you do you. If that's
Mm-hmm.
the choice that you want to make. I don't necessarily agree with it, but if you want to do it, I'm not going to say anything. You do whatever you want. Your body, your choice. You're 18 years old. That's fine. You can make that choice. I would caution you. I
Right.
would warn you to just think it through. Maybe wait until you're 25 and your brain's fully developed. But the kids is where I feel super uncomfortable with, and there's this big push for that, which is really, really uncomfortable. Which I think, and people might say, oh, this is a slippery slope argument. Like you're being ridiculous. But I don't think that I am. Is that if we can get kids to consent to these life altering surgeries, what else can we get them to consent to? If they're able to consent to that, then I think that opens the door for the argument for people
Right.
that might seek to do these children harm. Say, well, they can consent to that. Why can't they consent to this? And I think, well, yeah, I mean, that. Unfortunately, that's a good argument. Why couldn't they? We need to do our very best to protect our children from that, and push back on even that, because that is really alarming to me. Makes me super uncomfortable. Unfortunately, it's controversial. It really shouldn't be controversial to say that kids can't make these kinds of decisions, and they shouldn't be going on
Right.
hormone blockers or any of this. You said it yourself. You're studying, the development of children, and this is not a normal part of their development. I know, just
No.
based on the little bit of interaction I've had with youth, is that they need concrete things, and this gender theory is a really abstract thing, and I think it's just going to cause a lot more confusion, but also open the door for these individuals
Abusers.
to,
Yeah.
yeah, it's grooming.
It is, and that's where the issue is, and I'm not afraid to speak out about it because I have children, and all this directly affects my kids and affects all my family and friends' kids and affects ultimately our future. And it comes down to this. It's everyone doesn't want to be controlled. That's why the abortion thing is such a trend. It has been for the last couple of years, and it's the depiction of those messages. And this is where I want to come in and be like, people, talk about it to each other and think about it. Children are not cognitive enough to, not only consent to sex, but they're not cognitive enough to even decide and understand sexual orientation. Now you want them to be allowed to alter their bodies when they're literally in the middle of developing, and it's no, that's child abuse. That's conditioning. That's wrong. No, your child will not sit there and say, hey, I feel like I am a girl, even though I was born a boy. No, that's learned behavior. It is learned behavior that is taught to them. Their parents, I believe here in Florida, who had a child and decided that their child was gender neutral when the child was born. And then you got people out there trying to say, oh, a 4-year-old can decide their gender. No, they can't, because most 4-year-olds can't even put together a full coherent sentence, let alone will they decide if they're a boy or a girl. Now, it is not unnatural for children to be interested in playing with toys that are considered for a different gender. It is not unnatural for a little girl to want to play with tools and trucks. And it's not unnatural for a little boy to be interested in dolls and playing a dad to a doll. That's actually healthy. That's a good part of developmental growth. And I think people are allowing their personal opinions and everybody else's personal opinions to decide, what's fact and what's not fact. And what they're doing is they're going to destroy the human population, because, what is wrong with being who you are? Okay, so you grow up and you feel that you want to lead your life as a different gender. That's what you're comfortable with. Okay, fine. But acknowledge the fact that you are the gender that you are. And there's nothing wrong with that. You are allowed to change your appearance as much as you want. That's fine. People get tattoos, people dye their hair, they get piercings, people get implants and reductions and so what? Okay, cool. Alter your body. There's nothing wrong with that. But we don't need to make it to where it trickles down to our children. There's no reason. There's literally absolutely no reason to do that to kids in any way, shape, or form. That's not going to help them academically. That's not going to help them health-wise. There's anything. It's actually going to cause health issues is what it's going to do.
Health issues and psychological issues. I mean,
exactly.
We don't even know yet, like the long-term implications of what we're doing, because this is just it's a new thing, really, like a fad, and it's just growing and growing and growing. Like we don't like when these girls and these boys get to be an age where their brain is now fully developed, they're gonna look back and think like, why did you let me do this to myself? Like I think of the choices I made when I was 12, 13, like I was at that age, I was not even capable of really making life-changing choices. Yet we're going to let them make these types of choices that are going to alter the course of their entire life. And there's no going back. I mean, especially when you get to the point where you're doing hormone blockers and surgeries, there's no going back.
No.
They are permanently going to be affected for the rest of their lives.
I think that, it's just because, you have the means, the power, doesn't mean that you get to do what you want with it. And that is what's being missed in everywhere. Globally, more people agree with us. Nobody wants to control anything. We just want to protect the kids. Why can't we build a better future for our kids? Why, and sex change, gender transitions on elementary students, that has nothing to do with anything. It is just, you want to stick it to the man is really what people start thinking and feeling. And, oh, what are you going to do about it? Okay. Well, how about I just welcome people who don't agree with that to go to the states that don't agree with that and won't let that happen. And let's see how well you're developed and your children's future are compared to ours. Leave kids alone. Let them be kids. They don't need to worry about politics and sexual orientation and, teaching children what oral is in elementary school. Like I've heard all kinds of crazy things, and I'm like, dude, I don't know who you people think you are, but stop.
Yeah.
Let's focus on better things. You want to focus on kids? Let's focus on getting them in school. Let's focus on maybe providing, more, therapy. I mean, it's a hard time right now. And the last thing we need to do is to continue to attack the most vulnerable, which are
Yeah.
children and
Yeah.
elderly people.
Absolutely.
And we're the adults now. So let's talk. Let's fix it. Let's stop with letting media and everybody else tell us what we're supposed to do, how we're supposed to think and feel. Oh, and by the way, this is what you're supposed to let your kids do. I brewed my kids for 9 months. I birthed my children, and I'm raising my children.
Yeah.
I know what's best for them. So thank you. But,
I'm good on that.
Yeah.
So just I guess the last thing before we end this, what is something that you would say to, I guess, people that are afraid to speak on these topics? What would you say to them?
I would say that what makes it scary is the way that you say it and the way that you react. So react in kindness, react with intelligence, put down what you know. No, you don't have to leave links to lead to this, that, and the other. We too much censorship, but talk about it. Be real, be raw, make a post about it. If you're feeling something that day, talk about it and let people talk to you, because that's how people, you got to allow people to have their opinion, but you want to try and direct it, keep it calm, keep it, because, I've had all kinds of conversations on this topic with so many different people on so many different threads. And the best way to do it is don't be scared to talk about it. That's the first step in anybody following suit. They got to see somebody else do it. Yeah. And then they also lead by example. So be respectful, but be on point. And I think we need to continue to talk about these things every single day with everybody and not be scared. They can't do anything to you. They're not going to. They are testing the waters just like children. They're pushing buttons. So push back. And you don't have to beat them at their game. Kill them with kindness, beat them at their own game by being smart and by being respectful, because people aren't used to respect. So the more respectful and understanding that you are, the more it's going to blow people's minds and be like, well, wait a minute. Okay, wait, what did you just say? And they're going to go back and they're going to think about it, and you tell them, but don't be scared. Talk about it. Just be respectful about it. This is a free country, so you could say whatever you want. And if social media shuts it down, write it again. Just figure out which word was the trigger and just not use that word and move on. You know what I'm saying? But talk about it. Definitely. Just be respectful. Nice.
Awesome.
If you can.
Thank you so much, Ash. I love this conversation, and I thank you for coming on the show. I'm thrilled to have you. Hopefully, maybe in the future I can have you back. And where can people find you on social media?
They can find us on Facebook. Just type in M99 Band. We got that on there. You can find us on YouTube. Same thing, M99 Band. Music videos, it's little short documentaries we've made of our travels and stuff. And music platforms, we're on Spotify, Pandora, internet radio, things like that. But Facebook is probably the best. Instagram,
Okay, cool.
And we also have a website.
I'll post the links in the description or the comment section of this video so that people can get them pretty easy.
Okay.
So thank you so much for coming on the show again. I appreciate it, and I hope you have a blessed day, and Godspeed.